So, I don't want to talk about warm-up 2.0 because it drives me crazy that people will see a thing you do and they go, oh, you're the
such and such guy.
And that's all you do. Because, in a 90-minute workout here, or in fact, I guess it's 100 minutes if you count the roll at the start, the warm 2.0 component is actually 10 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes tops, yeah.
So it's a small slice of the pie. But I think it's a prerequisite for success in every other component.
And it's also something that we're quite proud of.
Yeah.
That we've built and
it's
designed.
pretty cool. Yeah. But I still hate talking about it because it's done to death in terms of people think it's like that's all.
No,
we only do warm up. We're the warm up guys.
We're not the warm up guys. We do other stuff.
Yeah. But let's talk about the warm up.
Let's talk about first about why warm ups are important, I suppose, and
so,
why actually you need to pay any attention to it at all.
Okay. So I think there are two views on warm ups. I think there's what I would call the warm up 1.0 view, which is that warm up is designed to warm you up, elevate body temperature, get you moving a little bit. Blood flow, get you just going, and then you can go and play a sport. My view, our view, is that's every minute you allocate with an athlete's time should have the best possible bang for buck.
Yeah, because you only have so many training dollars per week.
Yeah.
And as coaches in a junior or representative level, you don't have too much time. You don't have 4 sessions, or you've got 2. You got to get as much into those sessions as possible.
You're time poor and development hungry.
Yeah.
So, to me, the idea was, well, how can we find not just a good enough warm up, but the best warm up in the world for bang for buck, minutes spent, results accumulated.
Yeah.
And so this process started legitimately in 2006. The sort of designing and iterating, and there were lots of mistakes made back then. I'm really sorry to any of the 0607 Sapphires, my girls, if you're watching. I made them do inchworms. I made them do a whole bunch of drills that made them in a lot of pain, and because I was just
not trying much benefit.
Yeah, and I'm trying stuff out and trying dynamic drills that, in retrospect, weren't that great, and made their way out of the program. But I think, and a lot of people say, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, a lot of different ways to warm up. I think the fundamental block within each block there will be variable things that are okay.
Depending on your sport.
But I think the fundamental blocks are universal.
Preset in stone, yeah.
From our point of view, we're different to a lot of businesses or coaches in this field. But I think it has to be release. So you have to release off the trigger points, the adhesions, the tight fascia. So that's got to be foam roll. I think if you're doing anything other than that at the start, it's crazy. Because if you then want to create some length at a muscle and you haven't released off the trigger points, then the loose sections of muscle are going to lengthen, the tight sections are going to stay tight.
The knots will just get tighter and the other bits that are already loose.
So it's the equivalent of dividing up your team and go, okay, all you guys that are really flexible, all you guys that have great flexibility, let's go and have you stretch more, and all you guys that are really tight, don't stretch at all. Yeah. That's like it is in the
micro level.
Yeah. So I think you've got to release everything out. I think there are huge. We'll circle back to the benefits of each.
Yeah. Just get through the floor first.
So release. Then you've got to lengthen. Let's be crystal clear. We're not trying to make straight down at the camera. We're not trying to make you into a gymnast, crazy flexible. This is restorative stretching. We're just restoring or resetting a couple of key handbrake muscles to their appropriate length. So I would never stretch calves just before sprinting movement. I would never stretch quads. I wouldn't stretch hamstrings beyond the tiniest little restorative just to make sure they're at a restored length. It's just about handbrake muscles like hip flexors.
And with your stretching, it's about a return to normal. We're not trying to increase and create the splits and so right. You've been sitting at a desk or in a car for a long time, or you played yesterday, so you're a little tight from that. We just got to get you back to a baseline. Yeah. Hit the reset button so we can start again from a fresh slate.
Because if we don't hit that reset button and your right adductor magnus is a bit tight, and you take that tight adductor magnus into your dynamic stuff, in the heat and hustle and bustle of dynamic, that adductor magnus is not spontaneous. Okay, oh hi, I see you doing some dynamic stuff.
It's loosen.
It's just staying tight, and therefore it's going to bear the brunt of the work because it's the tightest link in the chain. Therefore, it will get tighter.
Yeah. So the problem compounds.
Yeah, and you get what I call carry-through tightness.
Yeah.
So we want to eliminate that carry-through. So roll, stretch, just a couple of muscles, gentle, restorative, and then very basic activation, which I think is an element that gets neglected in that people jump straight into dynamic without having first made sure that the right muscles are switching on.
Software upgrades.
Yeah. So that glute work really learning to switch the glutes on properly and in a very isolated, easy sense, I think. And then you get to movement skill. So you're bringing the body you're bringing into movement skill is actually this now loosened, lengthened, activated, primed body that can then do its absolute best to maximise the benefit within the movement skill component.
And you've talked about movement skill. You mentioned dynamic before. So movement skill is kind of what we call dynamic.
Yeah,
it's dynamic work, but it's done for specific purposes.
Yeah. So my view is you've got to warm them up, but why just warming them up is a waste of time. Like, why not do drills that are going to gradually make a tiny cumulative improvement to how they run, how they cut, how they jump, so that you're actually enhancing their skill as you're elevating their preparedness to play. So yeah, I think, and we go linear, lateral, vertical. We try and tick all the boxes, cover the bases there. And it's probably more, if we look at the pie chart of our movement skill component of one, it's probably more biased towards linear. We'll spend more time on it.
Also, where people, especially in team sports, tend to suck a bit more.
Yeah.
So and also you see a big difference if you make some changes to that.
Yeah.
That like we talked about last week with the midfoot strike under the body.
And it's certainly not a placebo effect. I don't know what the word is, but there's a confidence. People, when they are sprinting beautifully, feel more athletic.
Feel bouncy, I feel lighter, feel more reactive. Yeah.
When you feel bouncer, more reactive, when you feel better, I think you're more confident within yourself athletically. You can then be more aggressive, and then you're in the opposite of a vicious cycle where you feel confident, you go harder, you make better plays.
The coach notices you more, so you get to sprint more often. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
And you start to generate a bit of a halo effect. And it's a legitimate thing that if you are an athlete who moves beautifully and you make an error, and you're an athlete that moves horribly and you make an error, and it's the same error, the coach sees the beautiful moving athlete, they're more forgiving. Because I don't know whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's just people that move nicely.
Some sort of human psychology, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, well, they were clearly trying.
It looks so good even though it didn't come off.
Yeah. So they're the four components.
Yeah, so we got roll, foam rolling,
Yeah.
restoration of length, targeted, isolated muscle activation, then you've got your movement skill or your dynamic component where you start actually bouncing and moving and jumping and running.
And with all of them, I think it's a matter of constantly improving. I think there's still areas up for grabs. I feel like we perhaps need better attention to the nerve stretching things,
Especially sciatic nerve, yeah.
It's an interesting area. I'm not sure we're going to go into that yet, but it's an area it's a watch this space,
Yeah.
I suppose.
We might be doing a return to this down the track.
Yeah, I think our rolling's pretty much set. It's just work your way through the body, loosen all the key tight spots off. I think that's pretty much set. The static stretching, the three we do, the crouching adductor, kneeling hip flexor, lying glute.
Yeah.
Very happy with all of them.
Adductor magnus because it just takes so much load in lateral sports. Yeah. Hip flexor because it's your handbrake to sprinting and jumping. And then that lying glute is kind of more a lying piriformis.
Yeah.
Which is that one that gets so grumpy and so squashed from all the sitting we do. Lack of external rotation causes all sorts of lower back problems. Compresses the sag nerve, like you mentioned. So you loosen that off, get those hips moving.
And I think it's something like 40-50% of the population, the sciatic nerve actually passes through piriformis.
Yeah, actually,
so if it's
inside it.
If it's tight, it's actually squeezing on it. Then I think the activation stuff is, I'm fairly set on. I think they activate the glutes, do a bridge, do a squat. I don't think there's a better sort of progression and combo. But the more controversial area for us is how we best spend our movement skill dollar. Yeah. And that's where we're always trying to evolve a little bit. So we had things like Grapevine. And so there is we're very into start with why, okay, why are you doing that particular drill?
The drill is Grapevine. What is it giving us? Why should we do that?
Yeah.
Why are we?
How does it earn its place within ORM 2.0?
Yeah, exactly. If you've only got 5 minutes for it.
Yeah.
For your drills.
And it turns out that all we were getting was we were cueing really people moving in internal rotation, substituting in lumbar rotation. It was
no man's land. It was a bit of nothing, and then it was spend the whole time with your toes in.
I'm kind of embarrassed that it stayed in there for a decade.
Yeah, we were wrong. We were, yeah.
But now we've replaced that with 45-degree cuts.
Yeah, so some sort of Z, 1 or 2 step push steps. Yeah.
Which is underwhelming to watch. It's underwhelming to do, but I think it's fundamentally better because it's a thing that people aren't getting enough. People do cutting at speed, but actually doing it a little slower and focusing on the technique of it.
Yep.
Much like a race car driver would actually learn how to, you learn how to power out of the apex of a corner. Like that's race car, that's driving 101. It's like learning actually how to put the power down
And where and what.
and where and how to stay stacked. Yeah. So that's one of the changes.
D-slides.
Yeah. This is going to have to be a whole. I think D slides. Like I don't want to. We've got another 10 minutes of talking about.
Should we leave it there and do D-slides next week?
Yeah, let's tackle that. Yeah.
D-slides next week.
Cliffhanger.